From the opening round at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia, we continent hop over to Asia and to another world-famous Grand circuit. The Suzuka International Racing Course in the heart of Japan, playing host to round two of the Goodyear Auto Keverana Super Series in 2021. The Suzuka Grand Prix 160 coming your way across the course of the next couple of hours here on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. Good evening, everybody. Nice to have your company wherever you're tuning in all around Australia, be it via Facebook or YouTube. The platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. Zach Cabin and JP with you for what should be an awesome night of entertainment here. 28 laps of racing ahead of us. Could be one of the hottest and fastest races of the season, and a lot riding on the results of tonight based on what we saw last week. Of course, you witnessed history here last Tuesday night, only 7 days ago, and only 163 hours ago. Rehan Leonage joining the winners list in the top flight in superb style. And it set the hearts racing and the blood pumping for the next 10 weeks of competition. And a lot of people with a point to prove on the back of last week. And a few of these guys wanting to square up with the youngster and show him that the more experienced campaigners, the older folk in this field, have still got it as well. One way or another, we have got a compelling 10 weeks ahead of us because we've got 6, possibly 7 or 8 different drivers capable of winning on any given night, and that's a really exciting prospect. JP, welcome into you. Rehan was magnificent last week, but as we're already seeing in qualifying here, and you can see it on your screen there, folks, only 3 minutes left in the session, he's buried in the middle of the top 10 at the moment. There's a few people with a point to prove tonight, not least the guy just ahead of him, Rainer Costello. But you look at the likes of Brian Borg, Dylan Rudd, and we can't forget Dylan Pereira, who's there in third at the moment on the timesheets here, all on their day capable of winning. And we saw Borg and Rudd lead from the front in the opening couple of stints there last week until Rehan got the better of them on strategy.
Yeah, good evening, Zach, and good evening, everybody watching us this evening. Yeah, look, you can't fault Rehan's race last week. It was an absolute flawless run. He did it on pace. He did it on strategy. Tonight he's going to have a little bit more work ahead of him, but I think the older guys in the field have decided that they want to make sure that they stamp a little bit of dominance on tonight. But I still think that he's an outside chance, a better than an outside chance of another win.
Top 13 in this qualifying session, separated by less than a second. We're going to have a look at the movers and shakers in just a few moments. Dylan Pereira, I just want to quickly touch on him because last week we saw him retire from the race and do so rather early. We didn't see it on screen. There was an incident in pit lane. We were lucky not to get a safety car in the GAC Super Series last Tuesday night because there was a 4 or 5 car pile up in pit lane, and that's what brought Dylan Pereira's night undone. He'll be hoping for a safer transition through the lane tonight and hoping to get back into contention. But as we said last week, whenever you have a DNF in a series where all points count, you are pushing it, figuratively speaking, uphill for the next 10 weeks. So, but Dylan Pereira, no doubt, will be happy to throw a cat amongst the pigeons and prove that he is a contender, irrespective of championship outcome in the next few weeks. Let's have a look on that note at the championship standings as we come into this round. And by virtue of the fact that he did win last week, Rehan Leonage is at the pointy end, but it's Brian Borg only 1 point away, and Dylan Rudd on 146 points. So Leonage with the win last week. Borg got pole position. So I'm just trying to work out where the other couple of points have gone there, but that's another story for another day. 150 plays, 149. Brian Borg. Dylan Rudd is third on 146. And then, of course, Sean McNamara on 144. Tommy Hayman, 142. And Rainer Costello, 140. Simon Chadwick, Michael Angus, Jamie Dyke and Brenton Nitschke make up the top 10. We won't roll through that verbally speaking, but we will roll through so that you can see where your favourite drivers are at, because at the end of the day, JP, one round in, there's not a lot you can take out of the points table apart from when you look at the back end of the field here in the listings. We had 38 starters last week. Dylan Pereira being one of them is at the very, very back here. So I mean, all the usual protagonists at the front with the exception of Pereira.
Yeah, 100%. And just to alleviate your confusion there and to, I guess, inform our viewers, admin during the week has decided to change the way that we award the pole position points. So instead of 5 points for pole position for this season, it's going to be 1 point. So that's in order to keep things a lot closer. And as you can see, it's definitely done that with Rahan and Brian Borg.
And just to be clear as well, since we are clarifying things here, the clean race bonus is still 5 points?
The clean race bonus is still 5 points. So we think that a clean race probably should be rewarded more than getting a pole position.
Copy that, mate. Nicely clarified from you. Thank you for that. Dylan Pereira there, stone model this last 0 points. We wait to see how he bounces back as the rest of the season unfolds. Enough of that. We'll go through the race info in just a moment. But first, rather than have one of our experts talk you through a lap of this 5.8 kilometre Suzuka circuit, let's crank up the volume and go for a hot lap with JP driving you through a hot lap of the Suzuka circuit, and just listen to the car hard at work as we crank up the volume for the first time tonight. Awesome circuit, Suzuka Japan. It should throw up an exhilarating contest tonight, especially when you consider that the top 14 on this grid are separated by less than a second. There were a couple of movers and shakers in the tail end of that session, not least Stephen Bull plotting himself up into 11th position at the very death there. All right, let's have a look at a couple of points of interest here before we get moving. Firstly, the RSRA Super Series race sheet for you, the info that tells you what we're doing, where we're going, and how long for. And it's a 5.81 kilometre course here. The race will be 28 laps. The race distance is 162.7 kilometres. So again, that average of 160 kilometres, which was the sprint race format length last year, remains the same this year. 60 kilometres an hour along pit lane. I think last week it was 80, so that's a change that they're all going to have to be mindful of. Fuel restriction and fuel burn make it pretty simple to tell you that it's about 10 laps to a stint around here, so that doesn't leave much leeway with regards to when you can make that last stop, be it lap 18 or 20, depending upon which strategy you want to play, or actually make it 19 and 20, because let's face it, you need that lap to get home under your own steam after the checkered flag flies. 46.2 litres at 4.60 a lap gives you 10, and the smallest bit of change on the start of the 11th. 2 pit stops there, 4, and of course 2 sets of tyres. So 1 set that you start on, and then a set that you will have the choice of taking either in your first stop or second stop. We saw that bring Reina Costello undone last week. 9:30 a.m. is the server time, and of course that doesn't sync up as nicely as it did when we were at Twin Ring Motegi only about 5-6 weeks ago, because 9:30 Japan or Japanese time is 11:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. 21 is the air temp, 28 on track, 19 kilometre an hour northeasterly winds, so strong winds for this round of the championship. Now, we ran short for time last week due to the server loading so quickly and the cars lining up on the grid. So we're actually going to have a look at the grid now for you, and it'll present in a different form than it usually does. But this is so that we can run through the entire field and just have a look at some of these margins. 2 minutes, 0.37 for the benchmark from Brian Borg, narrowly ahead of Dylan Rudd. Less than a tenth of a second between them, but the number one on the front row yet again. Brian Borg setting the benchmark in the early stages as far as qualifying is concerned this season. Aaron Dodd and Dylan Pereira on the second row. They're good to see Aaron Dodd have a good run in qualifying. We've got our fingers crossed for him that can convert it into some sort of race result tonight. Dylan Pereira bouncing back nicely after the retirement last week. Rehan Leonage trying to defend that win from last week from the third row of the grid. But again, it's a strategy game for him, and that's what got him the win last week. Reina Costello's alongside him. Those two duked it out very early on in the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya race last week. Expect the same again tonight. Jamie Dyke from position number 7. And Jared Bailey, a graduate, and I'm going to let JP elaborate on this in just a moment, a graduate from the Super 2E series already this season. He's up there in 8th, and that's probably why he's already graduated up, I might add. Cameron Jones and Sean McNamara from row 5. McNamara in the top 10, hoping to press forward there. Right, he's already got the red mist in the cockpit, and that was before he hopped in. I'll tell you why in a moment. Stephen Ball, the other graduate from the Goodyear Auto Carolina, the Super 2E series into the Goodyear Auto Carolina Super Series, of course. Ben Morris will start alongside him, Simon Chadwick and Brian Good from the 7th row, Robert Crisdale and David Coleman from row 8, Brenton Nitschke and Michael Angus from the Callum Murray Racing Stable in row 9. Matthew Scholes and David Nash, of course, who did great things in the Super 2E series last season, up in the big game this time round as well. Row 11, Justin Pennefather and Sam Noble. Tom Heyman and Craig Schultz from 12. From 13, it'll be Dean Powell and Dean Reddit. From 14, it'll be Jacob Brewer and Peter Crossingham. From 15, Rick Sibra and Simon Vella. Tom Heyman, that's not his best qualifying performance. He'll be hoping for a far better run in the race, as will David Kirby, who starts on the outside of row 16 alongside Robbie Bradbury. Lindsay Hobbs and Chris Barnes from 17, Dean Alessi and Bruce Tunnock. From 18, Blake Delaney and Scott Barchin. From 19, and Jamie Davis from the very back of the field. Another guy that will be disappointed with his qualifying efforts tonight. JP, it's a hard task, but have you got a winner for me?
Mate, it's going to be a hard one. Look, if Brian gets a good run, and we know that he's fast out of the blocks, he's one to look out for. He was let down last week maybe by pit strategy, so I'm sure he won't be making the same mistake twice. So, look, I'm going to roll the dice and say Brian Borg, look for Dylan Pereira as the dark horse. And, let's see how we go.
Start is key. Pole from the outside at the Suzuka circuit, not the inside. Who will get the jump? Let's wait and see. Round 2, ready to fire. Shocker of a start for Borg. He's bogged it down. And have a look at Pereira. And also Aaron Dodd. Aaron Dodd, a great start. Pereira trying to go up there on the inside of Aaron. Oh, I tell you what, it's close as they head through turn 1 and 2 and 3 as well. Great getaway as they head through for the first time.
Oh, no, look at that.
Timing let go on me here. Oh, trouble. We've got a spinner. I've just had one, and we've got a second spinner. I think that was Cameron Jones who had the spin on the outside. Oh, boy. So Dylan Rudd, a great start. Aaron Dodd, a great start. Rehan Leonage, a great start. Brian Borg, a shocker of a start. And Dylan Pereira has gone thoroughly backwards, back to about 10th position. So, JP, already some fireworks and some drama here.
Yeah, look, expect to see Brian Borg take a trip through the pits for that move on Dylan Pereira.
Now, one thing I will say in all of that is apologies from us. We lost live timing there for the first quarter of a lap, so it was make it up as we go along there for a minute. But at the start, it was a shocker for Brian Borg. He bogged it down, and he just got swamped. It was Aaron Dodd that went straight through the middle, went with Dylan Rudd. And, of course, Pereira got there as well. But as you say, JP, Brian Borg and Dylan Pereira coming together, that is the second week in a row. And with the start, as they make their way into the chicane for the first time, the Casio Triangle, as they call it here in Japan, down onto the main straight, the first lap in the books. It is a 28-lap race here at the Suzuka International Racing Course. All guns blazing in the early stages. Some big movers early on. Rehan Leonage up 2 positions already. So he started nicely, the young fella who won last, and Leonage a good start too. And Borg and Costello 4th and 5th. Borg on the comeback for the rest of the night. He's going to have to fight hard from here. But as you say, JP, race cricket at the moment, so he's losing ground as we speak. Justin Pennefather, 16 positions lost. Peter Crossingham, 10 positions lost. And David Coleman has dropped 23 positions. Safety car deployed. We've got a safety car in Japan.
Now, this could have been the Robert Crisdale crash.
So,
let's have a look at this.
The first safety car of the season for the SuperSeries, JP.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it might have been.
For you here. Contact and gone.
Yeah, there's a little bit of ambitious driving going on tonight.
Certainly is, JP. It's been a sketchy start by their standards. Cameron Jones with that sideways sliding moment through the S's in the opening lap. He dropped 3 positions as well. We'll have a look at some movers and shakers in just a moment, but we are under safety car for the first time. Justin Pennefather's dropped 14 positions, Peter Crossingham 10, and David Coleman 20. And I'm not sure. It looks like it might be David Coleman. That I'm not sure actually who has been brought undone there. It's our timing screen is a little bit behind tonight, so. Safety car boards and flags the first time. There's the car, the stricken car there on the side of the road. That's the one they're going to come and collect. And that's why we have got our first caution of the season. And this changes everything, JP, because this pushes the first round of pit stops back, theoretically speaking, because of the fuel that can be saved under caution.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to make all the difference, and guys are going to have to start thinking on the fly here.
Indeed they are. But it's a great start for Dylan Rudd. It's a tremendous start for Aaron Dodd. It's a shocker for Brian Borg. He's now following Rainer Costello, which is something he didn't have to do until after the first round of pit stops last week. Sean McNamara up 2 spots. Stephen Bull up 2 spots. Dylan Pereira down 6 positions. Ben Morris up 1. Cameron Jones down 3. Brenton Nitschke and Michael Angus both up 4. So too Matthew Scholes and Sam Noble. They've moved up 5 and 3 positions in reverse order. 3 for Scholes, 5 for Noble. Jacob Brewer up 9 positions already from 27th to 18th. And Craig Schultz from 24th to 19th up 5 spots. Simon Chadwick and Robert Crisdale have both lost 7 positions, according to our time. David Kirby has gained. And again, I stress that I'm reading off the timing sheet, but it appears to have frozen. So it could be a little bit mishmash on my part, and apologies for that. Nothing I can do at this point in time. 3 of 28 in Japan. JP, I said we'd come back to it. Let's just sum up into the supers from the Super 2 EC.
Yeah, look, we've had a couple of drivers that have been moved up by admin. They felt that they were probably quick enough to be able to race in the Super Series. So and at the moment they've proven us right. So Jared Bailey and Stephen Bull were both promoted from the Super 2 E Series into the Super Series, and so far they're doing really well with Jared Bailey in 6th and Stephen Bull in 9th.
Absolutely, they are. Now, the lights on the safety car. We'll wait and see if it comes back pit lane this time by or next time by. Keep this race green for as long as possible. So the less time the safety car has to be on the track, the better. But they have retrieved the stricken car there.
Now it looks like the safety car's starting to pull away from the field here, so they might be in this lap, although they've closed back up to the safety car again.
And the lights are still on too. So when those lights go out, it's usually a sign that he's coming to pit lane. They haven't as yet, so we could go for another lap here. Dylan Rudd, Aaron Dodd, Rehan Leonage, the top 3 at this point in time, from Brian Borg, Rainer Costello and Jared Bailey. Jamie Dyke, Sean McNamara, Stephen Pereira, the top 10. And can I just say, Sean McNamara, the red mist descended on the helmet at about 7:30 Eastern Daylight Time tonight, because he sent me a message on Facebook saying, to be daylight saving can get nicked. I'll clean it up for you. He said, try to get home and organise for a 6:45 practice service start. Not fun. But that is the inconvenience felt by so many at this time of the year. The frustration shared by all. Now, here's the 2 teammates coming together. And then Brian Borg has got into the side of Dylan Pereira.
Now we might need to have a look at that at a different angle.
Borg might be in a little bit of trouble for.
We might have to have a look at that at a different angle, Zach. I mean, Dylan Pereira may have turned in on Brian Borg there.
Okay. Yeah, if we can have a look at an onboard shot from Brian Borg's angle, that might be actually the tail of the tape. So I'll leave you to sort that one out for us. Safety car still out on the circuit. We're under caution for those of you just joining us. Round 2 of the Goodyear Auto Carolina Super Series on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. So early on, it was Pereira and Leonage side by side, duking it out for the same territory and position. And then all of a sudden, here's Borg trying to follow Leonage through, being mindful that Pereira's right there on the outside. There's not much real estate between them here. So we'll watch this within. It is a nice slow-mo replay for you. Going on here. And to be fair, I tell you what, I don't know how you read that one, JP, but for mine, it doesn't look like Borg's far enough up the inside to make that work, because it looked as though Pereira was holding his line.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, at the end of the day, we're not race control, but that was kind of a gap of diminishing returns there. That gap was closing, and Brian was going for a run on Pereira. You know, I don't think race control will look very favourably on that one.
No. So that we talk about pivotal moments and defining moments in these RSRA Super Series, be they Super or Super 2. That could be one of them right there. And no doubt caused by frustration from Brian Borg, knowing that he botched the start completely and lost what was 4 positions, not 3. So safety car will pull away now and make its way into pit We are on lap 4, so 4 down, 24 to go. I would be surprised if the safety car stayed out and did one more lap here. I would be really surprised.
Maybe Lee just wants to get those laps in as he can.
Yeah, most
Here
likely,
he goes.
quite possibly. But here's the thing too. Yeah, there we go. So lights out. Safety car returning to pit lane this time by field in the hands of Dylan Rudd here. At the same time, this is doing all these drivers a favour. They've had 2.5 laps since the safety car boards and flags were. So we've only got an hour and 4 left in the time window here to get the race in, but that should be enough with the 24 laps. That being said, these guys have all probably been able to save a lap, maybe a lap and a half of fuel, so they can stretch out that first pit window.
Here we go.
And then tighten up the second. They're off. They're racing. Great restart from Dylan Rudd. And Aaron Dodd in behind Rehan Leonage, Brian Borg, and Rainer Costello. Now, who will make the first move? Costello. Out and get some fresh air. To the first corner we go. Great restart from one and all. And if you're Rainer Costello, you're aware that he's already been caught up in an incident. Oh, he doesn't want to go for a gap that small either. So Costello's right there. Borg's just ahead of him. Borg, we suspect, might be under review at the moment, or could be put in the equation very shortly. And that would be a gift for Rainer Costello and Jared Bailey and Jamie Dyke. But
looks like we've had an incident with Brendan Nitschke.
It was a performance from Dylan Rudd. Oh, Brendan Nitschke really is Here he is coming onto the main straight now. So all that has happened whilst we've been watching the field half a lap up the road. And Nitschke, that brings his good run undone. He didn't have a bad start. He was sitting down in, he started in 17th. Now he's actually showing as the race leader, so I don't know exactly what's going on there. He's cut the circuit somewhere, I think.
Yeah, I think you'll find that everything will reset itself at the end of this lap.
Copy that, JP. Thank you. In the meantime, as they make their way into the triangle onto the main straight, another lap in the books. Just quickly too, Robbie Bradbury was the car that got caught up. We never got back to that because of the issues we've had with timing. So Bradbury, the early retirement here, out of the race. Even the safety car's ahead of him at the moment on laps completed. So we're on to lap 6 in Japan. Dylan Rudd, Aaron Dodd, Rehan Leonage. Oh, wide goes the 0-2 of Jacob Brewer. Oh, Craig Schultz getting down the inside. Brewer hanging tough on the outside. Puts him on the inside for the next corner. Have a look at this. This is fantastic to watch. 2x2 through the S's and just avoiding contact. Oh, brilliant stuff. Schultz is now a sitting duck hanging around the outside. He's going to try and accelerate his way out of trouble, though, and put himself on the inside for the next corner. Nicely done. Trouble! More contact. Oh, boy, the elbows are out tonight. Everyone's a little bit hot-headed after a safety car intervention. They're all just chomping at the bit to get back into the swing of things. Interesting to see what race control make of that one. So Nitschke, Rudd, Dodd, Leonage, Borg and Costello. I think I'm right in saying we're on lap 6 in Japan, folks. Here's Simon Chadwick now. You're riding on board with him. Riding on board with Simon Chadwick. Ahead is Craig Schultz. Up the hill we go. These guys buried down the order. 19th or 20th position, whatever the case may be. I'm only relying solely on the iRacing server as it updates for us, folks. So bear with us on that as they come into the main straight. So Dylan Rudd, Aaron Dodd arguing over the lead at the moment, and you can see that Rudd has a couple of car lengths advanced at this point in time. Third is Leonage, then Costello and Bailey, and then Dyke. Brian Borg, there's something that's happened to Brian Borg because he's dropped down to 9th position. Whether he's been served with a penalty and has come to pit lane, but he was 9th across the control line last time through. Or 8th in this instance, I should say. Then Bull and Pereira. He did get a drive-through penalty, JP. Thank you for clarification on that one. Brian Borg has been sent through the pits with that drive-through for that incident with Dylan Pereira in the early stages. So Rudd, Dodd, Leonage, Costello, Bailey, Dyke and McNamara. And there it is. Car 1, 2, 3 for contact on car 12. Bruce Tannock getting a drive-through penalty for contact with the number 12, which was, of course, Lindsay Hobbs. And as we know as well, 640 also got contact on car 957. And 957, as we know, is David Coleman. Getting the penalty in 640 and 957 is, 956 is, of course, Peter Crossingham. And 957 is Simon Chadwick. So we've got a 951, a 956 and a 957, folks. Forgive the confusion as they come back across the line. So Dylan Rudd leads in Japan. Dodd, Leonage, Costello, Bailey, Dyke and McNamara. Go, JP.
Something happened to Brian, not quite sure what it was. I've just been in contact with race control. They're still deliberating on his penalty, whether they're going to give him one or not. So not entirely sure why he came into the pits. Maybe he decided to take an early stop, but I can't see that happening.
No, well, this is very true too. We're only on lap 8, so it'd be too early, I would have thought.
Let's have a look.
Here's a replay. So there's Brenton Nitschke. Still none the wiser as to what the hell happened to Brenton Nitschke, but he's in pit lane. Here's Brian Borg in the meantime, coming down towards the spoon curve. Could have been indeed. Yep. And it's a moment that's proven costly for him. He's buried down in 8th at the moment, the pole sitter. So pole doesn't necessarily mean race win for the second week in a row. I'm pretty sure it was Brian Borg on pole last week, and he didn't convert. It's the curse of pole so far in the Goodyear Auto Carolina Super Series here. Lap 8 of 28 in Japan. Next time by the line, 20 laps to go. But if you want to do the reverse strategy, you're in your pit window now. You can pit now and still get home. However, most of these guys, having saved a lap of fuel, the window stretches out. So maybe 9, 10, 11, expect guys to come in to pit lane, remembering that 19's the critical number because you can get home with the 9-lap sprint and then the 1 lap you need to fuel yourself to the pit lane, or get to the pit lane under your own steam, I should say. Across the line we go. Rudd, Dodd, Leonage, Costello, Bailey, Dyke, McNamara. So very much status quo at the moment.
I tell you what, it'll be interesting to see who blinks first.
Absolutely. And it'll be interesting to see whether there's any tactical games that play in the first round of pit stops, JP, considering Rehan Leonage's brilliance last week. Whether everybody's up their game in that regard based on what the youngster did to them last week, because technically he made them look silly. With a brilliant pit strategy, helped out by the man himself, the champion, Lassif Leonage, of course. Good evening to him. We know he'll be tuning in. Lap 9 of 28 here in Japan. Remember, of course, for the rest of the season, folks, 820 or 750, depending upon whether it's an endurance round or not. 7:50 for the Enduros, 8:20 Australian Eastern Daylight Time for all the sprint rounds and the super sprints as well. Make sure you're here with us on the platforms, SimShed Broadcasting. Wide moment there for one of the Callum Murray Racing stable entries. Right here on board now with the 196, of course. Cameron Jones trying to fight his way through the pack. Behind him is Ben Morris. He's all over the tail of Dylan Pereira, though. In the meantime. To the spoon curve we go. Interesting at the front here. They're just creeping away, aren't they? Rudd and Dodd are going together. Leonage and Costello are going together. In fact, Leonage going with the top two more so than Costello. Then Bailey and Dyke. Then McNamara and Borg. They're in groups of two for the most part at the moment. In fact, look at Brian Borg all over the back of Sean McNamara. As they come onto the main straight, round they come. No blinking yet. Lap 9 in the books, we're on to lap 10. And Rudd wants to lead from the front in Japan. He was buried in the pack, 7th in qualifying up until the very closing stages. He put himself up into the top two and then got a beautiful start. Got the better of Borg, cleared out to the lead. Drive-through penalty for car 88 for contact on 1, 2, 3 on lap 7. Car 88, Dean Powers on his way to pit lane. And Bruce Tannock in trouble for the second time tonight. He's the poor bloke that's copping the hits from everybody tonight. More hits than Elvis for Bruce Tannock tonight. Whoa, look at that! Look at that! Cameron Jones all over the back of Dylan Pereira. This is good. Good, hard racing. We know Jones is a hard racer. We know Pereira wants to prove a point after the disappointment of last week. These two will go at it. They'll duke it out happily, I'm sure. The big question everybody's asking is there another safety car in this race? We will wait and see. We would hope not. It's, because safety cars breed safety cars, and then it's just a case if you don't get the opportunity to settle into a rhythm. We've had a good long run under green right now. This is the 6th lap since the restart. Jones looking for a gap that's not there, and Pereira closes it off. 2 blinks first. We're in the pit window. The first rounder stops. How's the tyre wear situation? Do they take tyres now or later? And will the latter affect their pit lap? Will it be 18 or 19 they decide to pit? 10 of 28. Rudd leads. 3-180R. This second, Leonage staying with them. Doing a superb job, the 11-year-old. Right, left, right again. Is it a tight right? No, they're going to continue on. All the top 4 continue on again.
Brian Borg's pulled the trigger.
Brian Borg has pulled the trigger. Borg goes in, Pereira goes in too, I think that might be.
Smart move. Where they were, that'll give them the a possible undercut.
Absolutely it will. Big move this early in the race. Big gamble, but one worth taking. Further back in the pack, Cadwick down on the inside. Nicely done. And he's got a gaggle of cars around him for company at the moment.
I'd say expect the leaders to be jumping in the pits.
Next time.
I'd say expect the leaders to be in the pits this lap. Smart move would be to cover the guys off that have just jumped in the pits.
Wouldn't be surprised at all, given that it's lap 11. Given how close to 10 laps the fuel range was, given that they probably, under a 2-lap caution, were able to save the equivalent of 1 racing lap. I'd say that we're right on the button here. They make their way up the long back straight here in Japan. The Rudd, Dodd, Leonage, Costello. Dyke McNamara, Bull, Jones, Morrison, Bailey, the top 10. So something's happened to Bailey there. He's dropped back a couple of spots. And Stephen Bull is the one that's moved up and been the beneficiary in all of that up into 7. Now, is this the lap? Yes. No, they sucker dummy one another. All three of them looked at. And then when Rudd didn't go, Dodd said, well, I'll keep following you. And so did Leno.
Jones is in the pit.
That is interesting.
Well, they don't have the benefit, they can try the benefit of the undercut, but they don't have the benefit of fresh tyres. Remember, it's only they've only got one set of tyres, and they can choose where to throw them on, and the smart money would be to put it on after your second stop.
Just how long will they leave it to come in the second stop? That's what I'm interested in knowing. Now, car 080 is going to get a pit lane penalty as well for car contact on number 9. Number 9, of course, being Jared Bailey, 080 being Jamie Dyke. So that explains exactly what happened to the number 9. We were wondering why Jared Bailey had dropped down the order. That explains it. Car contact with the Fishy Motorsports entry of Jamie Dyke. And that's unfortunate for Dyke. Second week in a row that he's had trouble with the stewards, and he's had to come down pit road. He got a drive-through penalty last week as well. Car 46 also feeling the wrath of the stewards at this point in time from race control. Race control clamping down on any contact at this point in time. They're obviously still deliberating on the Brian Borg incident. And this is what happened, Jamie Dyke and Jared Bailey. Oh.
Yeah, right in the back of his car.
Yep. There'll be a nice mark imprinted there, left by Jamie Dyke. Follow.
Now, that looked like...
Over 28. Now, surely this has to be the lapping with these guys coming to pit lane.
Here we go.
Here we go. Let's go. Into pit lane. JP, I'll come back to you, mate. I know you were going to make a point there. Jump in. But let's focus on this first. They're all in. 5, 6 of them.
Oh, this could have been... This could have been bad for... This could have been bad for Rayner. He had to lock it up to slow himself down. Now, that hit on Jared Bailey looked like netcode, but our rules state that we consider netcode to be the same as contact. If there was going to be contact made, then that's a penalty.
Copy that. And that's been consistently rather the rule all season long. So, and not just season 1, season 2, season 3.
Have a look at this.
All years. So, have a look at that again. Rehan Leonard does it again. Not to the extent that he did it last week, but he gets the jump back again. Oh, boy. Dylan Rudd beats out Aaron Dodd. Back in there is Sean McNamara, Stephen Bull, Ben Morris, etc. But for once again, it is Rehan Leonard, the effective race leader, and it is Brian Borg right there with him. But we know that Borg's on a different sort of strategy. Whatever the case is, we know that Borg's running to a different... He came in what we regard probably a little bit too early, but it could end up being a masterclass for Borg.
Now, Rehan is obviously short-fueled for track position there, so this is going to be interesting to see what happens on the other side.
Certainly is. My goodness. A compelling moment. I mean, Rehan Leonard did exactly the same thing last week, but last week he had 5, 6 seconds up his sleeve and he built it from there. This week, he's got 2 seconds back to Brian Borg. That's it. It's not as comfortable a buffer as it was last week against someone of Brian Borg's calibre, but when we talk about calibre, this guy's the standard at the moment. He won the race last week. He set the series alight, under lights. Actually, no, that was Wednesday night in Catalunya, Barcelona. 13 of 28. So next time by the line will be the start of the 14th lap. After that, half the race will be in the book. Done. 50% down 50% to go. Remembering 21 laps is three-quarters distance, which means 21 laps is classified tonight. So all these guys have to stick around for at least that length of time if they want to be classified tonight. Remembering, of course, we've already lost Robbie Bradbury. Bruce Tunnock and Brenton Nitschke are a lap down. And we did see a couple of guys fall in under the 75% rule last week despite not finishing the race. So Leonage, Borg, Rudd, then Pereira and Dylan Rudd, of course, the top five at the moment. Or is it? No, sorry, my apologies. It is Dodd. They're in position number 5. So Leonage, Borg, Rudd, Pereira and Dodd. My apologies. Costello is 6th and Dyke 7th. Jamie Dyke, despite the drive-through. I mean, that's going to upset the balance of his evening, though, JP, eventually.
Here we go.
You would expect.
Racing incident.
Now, there you go. There you go. That's the big one, JP, isn't it? That is the big one that we were deliberating right from the outset. Whether Dylan Pereira and have a look at this now. Whether Dylan Pereira and Brian Borg would be viewed as a racing incident or whether Borg would get a penalty. Deemed a racing incident by race control, and it's taken them until now, half the race, to get that to us. And that's a big decision. That's a big decision in the context of the race. Just on Jamie Dyke, though, we were mentioning there a moment ago, he's 7th. He will be out of sequence for the rest of the night, and that will upset the balance of the leaderboard there eventually somewhere down the track as we get closer to the end of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, they wouldn't have taken that incident lightly. They would have looked at that very, very carefully at all different angles. So, yeah, well done, race control, for I guess, dotting their I's and crossing their T's.
We're in at 28, so we're half race distance this time by the line. What a race it's turned out to be.
Now have a look at this.
Rehan Leonage.
Have a look at this, Zach. Rehan has started to clear out. He's got over a 3-second lead on Brian Borg now.
And this is exactly what he did last week, isn't it? Has he done it again? Has he taken the fresh tyres for the benefit of track time and track position to then try and consolidate it in the final stint home? And I cannot wait to see how this plays out. Could this be the master stroke from the prince of this paddock, Lasse Leonage, 2 weeks in a row? I tell you what, stick around, folks. You're seeing history in the making here. If Rehan Leonage can go 2 from 2 to the start of the season. Next week, we're excited because we go to another Grand Prix circuit. We go to the Hungaro Ring. We go reverse grid racing next Tuesday night on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. Leonage, Borg and Rudd, the top 3 at this point in time. And the margin Borg to Rudd is only 1.1. And Borg, having been off strategy, off sequence with these guys, this is going to be quite interesting to see how it all plays out. Just a little bit further back here.
No!
No trouble! Big trouble! More contact. This time the Fishy Motorsports entry. Is that Jamie Dyke again?
Yeah, Jamie Dyke on Brian Good now.
Time.
That's interesting.
Squeezed again.
Let's have a look at this.
Geez, can you believe it? Yeah, please. For the second time tonight, Jamie Dyke's found himself in strife. We'll slow it right down for you, folks, and we'll try and have a look at this as they head through into the right-hander. Now, is Dyke far enough up on the inside that he's been caught in the blind spot of the car in front? I'm not sure. Oh, and Brian Good, you couldn't buy luck at the moment. Dyke did gain out of that eventually, though, JP. Dyke did gain out of that, got down on the outside there and grabbed the track position. That being said, the fact that the car in front didn't come undone, didn't get damaged, Maybe race control will also say that too as a racing incident. It'll be interesting to see how they view that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll see what they have to say about it. And have a look at this now. Have a look at this stoush between Costello and McNamara.
This is awesome. McNamara and Costello. Rayner and Sean. McNamara, who has had success in this series before, both from an outright context and was also a race win sense. And Rayner Costello, who is due for a championship, you would think, based on all the history presented to us back in season 1 and all the misfortune of last year. At lap 16 of 28, Costello by 2 car lengths over McNamara in the battle for position number 6 here on the racetrack at the moment. Leonage Borgrud, good fight back from Pereira to be 4th at the moment. What sort of strategy is he running as well? That's what we've got to be mindful of.
Have a look at this.
McNamara makes a move down on the inside. McNamara gets by Costello and does it easily before the corner. McNamara moves up into position number 6. Oh, very nicely done. Lap 17 begins for the leaders. 12 laps to go. And that's a nice bit of driving from Sean McNamara to get by the young gun, Rayner Costello.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant move by McNamara there.
It was. Down the main straight. So behind them, of course, that was Cameron Jones you saw at top of shot. Ben Morris is behind him. A fair gap between Jones and Morris, I might add. Stephen Bull is giving good chase to Ben Morris. So we're following the progress of Bull and Bailey. They're 10th and 12th at the moment. Michael Angus had a great race, 18th up to 11th. In fact, other movers and shakers include Tommy Heyman from 23rd on the grid up into 14th. So he'll be hoping to salvage a top 10 out of this. David Kirby up from 32nd to 16th. He's carving his way through the field, as is Simon Vella from 30th up into 15th. Here's Dean Reddit. He'll be in the commentary box tomorrow night alongside Matty Davis. 26th up into 25th. So started and gained 1 position thus far, has Dean Reddit. He would hope to go a little bit further forward than that, but he's boxed in traffic at the moment, and sufficiently. Craig Schultz, Jacob Brewer just ahead of him. Of course, they were duking it out for position earlier. Now they've got Dean Reddit for company as well. So if you rehunt Leonage, JP, when do you pit?
You stay out there as long as you possibly can, because you've got to make hay while the sun shines. And at the moment, he's the only driver in the 2 minute 2 seconds. So 2:02.74 was his last lap. Brian Borg did a 2:03.26. Dylan Rudd a 2:03.32.
Exciting to watch how it all unfolds here on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. Tuesday Night Motorsport, Goodyear Auto Carolina Super Series, round 2 of 11. Just one broadcast for the first 10 rounds, and then 3 different nights and days of broadcast from Mount Panorama for the virtual Goodyear Auto Carolina Bathurst 1000. December 7, 11 and 12 will be with you on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting for all of that. More on that a little bit later. In the meantime, let's continue on here.
Here we go.
And Jamie Dyke has also got away with that one with Brian Good, a racing incident on lap 15. That was my initial thought, because Good wasn't severely compromised. Another good call, I'd say, from race control. Down the main straight. Lap 18 at 28. And still, the battles rage on here. So you got one of the KFC cars sitting there. Now we jump back a little bit further. Oh, I tell you what, it's on in the mid-pack, isn't it? This is good stuff. Chadwick, is it there? Yep, on the outside. He's a sitting duck if he stays out there for too long, you would think.
Yeah, there you go.
What a pressure. Oh, sliding through the corner is Chadwick. That was hairy, but that was slick at the same time. That was really done from Chadwick. Really well done. He holds on to that position for the moment. It's position 19. He's got Lindsay Hobbs ahead of him, as well as Brian Good. Behind him, he's got Dean Alessi giving him the hurry up, and also Chris Barnes, I should say. And back we go. This is Michael Angus. Stephen Bull just ahead of him. Jared Bailey just behind him. Angus sitting in 11th, having a good run at the moment. In car number, sorry, my apologies. It's actually David Kirby. It's his teammate that we're watching here. So it's Kirby in position 15. It's Jamie Dyke behind him, and just ahead of him is Simon Vella and Tom Heyman, who's had a good charge up through the field thus far. It's always hard until I see the number, and they're not easy to pick up exactly which Calamari Racing stable entry we are following.
Here we go. Rudd, Pereira, and Dodd are in.
Yeah. Rudd, Pereira, and Dodd into the pit lane. Very nicely picked up from UJP, but I've got one eye here at this point in time on David Kirby, because he's under all sorts of pressure from Jamie Dyke.
Dyke's in.
15th and 16th. Dyke goes into the lane, so all that pressure's gone. All that pressure has been released from David Kirby's shoulders. He's had a brilliant run tonight. 32nd on the grid he started, and he's staring down a top 15 finish. If he can keep it all together. In the meantime, JP, should probably talk about this guy, Rihan Leonage, 5 seconds clear of anybody else on the racetrack at the moment. He is in some sort of form.
He's doing a magnificent job, and look, this would suggest that he's taken tyres, but it is going to hurt him on the back half of this stint. But he has track position, so track position on a track like this is going to be king.
Indeed it is. And let's take this opportunity, actually, JP, why not, to jump on board with Rihan Leonage. We won't go for a full lap, but just let's listen to him hard at work. Rihan Leonage into the pit lane. I said we wouldn't go for the full lap there, folks, because we had a sneaking suspicion that he'd come in to cover off all the moves that were happening around him as they make their way down the main straight. I believe that's Sean McNamara you're watching on screen now, coming across the start-finish line.
He's looking pretty lonely there.
The effective race lead, won't he? Because it looks like Brian Borg's followed Rihan Leonage into the pit lane, and there is Dylan Rudd. So McNamara yet to pit. Dylan Rudd has pitted. And Dylan Rudd is on track to be the effective race leader, depending upon what happens with Leonage and Borg. And that's what we've got to keep our eyes on. When do they move from their box?
Leonage is moving.
In relation to Dylan Rudd. Rudd's on the main straight. The boys have been released from their box. Here he goes. Yep, you saw Borg leaving his box. And there goes Leonage out into the lead. Borg's not going to get Dylan Rudd. So it's going to be Leonage, Rudd, Borg, the top three. The same top three that we had last week. They're having a great run tonight. But right now, all eyes are on whether Rihan Leonage can do it again.
Now, this is going to be interesting. He's only got a 1.5 second lead on Rudd. So with the fresh tyres, Rudd's going to close in on him pretty quickly here. Oh, have a look at this.
This is just awesome, isn't it? Costello's right there under all sorts of pressure at the moment. And using every bit of the real estate, the curbs and more. Through they come again. Into the left-hander. Back we go to Sean McNamara. When does he pit? When does he bite the bullet and make his way into the lane? Not this time round. He continues on again. So this will be the start of lap 21. 8 laps to go. He's not far away. Oh, more trouble. Oh, trouble. Massive trouble. So that was Dean Alessi getting all caught up in that garbage, and there were 4 cars involved in that. I guess the good thing is that they've all been able to drive away from the scene, JP, so we keep the race green, but that's not ideal for any of them.
No, absolutely not. And I did think that that was going to maybe get the safety car out and work right into McNamara's hands.
It certainly would have. Oh,
here we go.
Yes, there you go. Right on cue. Safety car boards and flags. Oh, no. Oh, no. We've got a massive incident in the middle of the circuit. A massive shunt. And I'm not sure, but it looked like one of them might have been Brenton Nitschke from the blind eye. I'm not sure who the other one was. We'll have to have a look at what's happened there, JP, but this is a big moment for Sean McNamara.
I think this may have been Jamie Davis and Rick Sibra.
Yeah, Jamie Davis, well picked up. I knew, as soon as I saw blue, oh no! As soon as I saw blue, I thought Brenton Nitschke, but no, that's right. Well picked up, and there were 3 cars in, bang! So there were 3 cars involved in that, and that's going to ruin their race. There's a significant tow job to be done here, and the field's going to be bunched up for a second time tonight. More drama in Japan than you could poke a stick at. Rick Sibra was the other one involved.
He's just gotten on the grass there and had nowhere to go, so it's had a bit of a slide now. I don't know whether he got a touch there, but he may have.
Oh, gee.
But at this point, at this point, Jamie Davis is just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Bang. And that was, he found him very easily. Hit him square on. And I'm not sure who the 3rd car was that came through there, but there was another car that came through and flooded the wall as well, JP.
Yep,
Big time.
And this is going to play right into McNamara's hands.
Certainly is. He's going to be able to come into the pit lane. Although that actually, well, to be fair, it didn't work into his hands as much as he would have liked because there was a lot of traffic ahead of him blocking his run in. So here come the leaders. McNamara might lose out in all of that. In the end, if he had clear track in front of him, different story, but he didn't.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happened there. They must have deployed the safety car early because it's backed up the traffic pretty quickly.
Certainly has. So McNamara in all of that is actually going to be compromised. So Rehan Leonage is going to have tremendous pressure on his young shoulders in a few moments' time, folks, because basically he's going to have the pack chasing and hunting him down. And if he has taken fresh tyres in the first stop, JP, as we suspect he might have, it could backfire in this moment right here and now. Next time by the line, we've just started lap 22. Next time by the line will be 6 laps to go. Given the significance of the incident ahead here, I think it'll be a 2-lap caution easily. So therefore, it'll be this time round and the next one as well. And there are those cars parked on the side of the road. I didn't see what happened to the 3rd car involved in that incident, whether it got back going or whether it's stuck in the gravel trap there right in front of you at the moment, folks. But the fact of the matter is that the longer the safety car stays out, the better for Rehan Leonage. And then he's got to worry about his tyre wear compared to those behind him and who took fresh rubber when and how much tyre wear's played a role in the 2 stints to this point. So many different equations, so many different scenarios going through my head right now, JP, and I'm sure I'm not the only one because there will be a few guys, particularly within that top 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8 back to Cameron Jones, that are just thinking, oh boy, all hell's about to break loose.
Yeah, as soon as that safety car comes in, yeah, it's absolutely going to be on.
Oh boy. So McNamara, Leonage, Rudd, Borg, Dodd was the running order last time by the line. Costello 5th, Pereira 6th. Now, this could work into Rainer Costello's favour as well. And he might be able to squeeze his way up into 4th, maybe 3rd. Brian Borg will certainly want a piece of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, Rainer, where he's sitting, he's going to give it absolutely everything he's got. And while we're under safety car, just send out a big shout out to Ross from RSW Graphics, who painted the safety car for us, really hit a home run with that one.
Yeah, he certainly did, and quickly too. I mean, well done to all concerned with this race thus far, because race control have done a bang-up job. The drivers have entertained us from first until last, and if you've stuck in for the duration on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting, you know that the best is yet to come, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the safety car going very gingerly along the main straight here. JP, I've just had a look at your totem pole here, because as I've said a few times tonight, I'm going off the iRacing server here due to some issues at my end. But McNamara, Sean McNamara, started 10th, currently sits 10th. He lost 9 positions by pitting at the start of that safety car period, compromised by the traffic around him. Unfortunately, he would have had a much faster run back to pit lane had there not been cars in front of him. Of course, you can't pass under a yellow flag, so he'll be filthy right now, I would assume. Sean McNamara. You would have also noticed there too, ladies and gentlemen, it looks as though 1 or 2 cars were waved by the safety car there, so they could pick up the leader, Rehan Leonage, as well.
Yeah, and the safety car will, race control will wave by lapped cars to allow them to get back on the lead lap.
Oh boy. You can just feel it. The tension building, the drama increasing. Everyone's going to be on tenterhooks when we get back underway here. This is going to be pressure cooker stuff. The last, what are we on now? Lap 23. So the last 5 laps of this race, the last 10 minutes of this race, every corner is so vital, and every mistake is going to be costly in this sprint to the checkered flag. And the question on everyone's lips, will Rehan Leonage do it again? Second week in a row that he's been leading at this point of the race, JP. It has been a tremendous start of the season for him. Now, all of a sudden, he's going to have guys with experience, you know, well beyond his breathing down his neck. Rudd, Ford with the point to prove after getting pole position and then botching the start. Aaron Dodd, desperate for a podium. And then Rainer Costello, of course, who wants redemption for not just season 1, but bloody season 2 as well.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be an absolute nail biter. We see the looks like the safety car is pulling away.
All right, do us a favour, mate. Leave the totem pole there for the benefit of everybody at home. 5 to go, and we will keep you posted with the progress of everybody as the night unfolds here. Have a look at that firstly. Can we just zoom in on 16, 17, 21, 22, 23? Have a look at the positions gained. David Kirby, 16 positions gained. Vella, 13 positions gained. And then, of course, 13, 15, and 15 for the guys in 26, 7th, and 8th, which, of course, are Crossingham, Alessi, and Coleman. Those guys have done, my apologies, no. Again, getting out of sync with the server there. 21st, 22nd, and 23rd is what I'm looking at. Barnes, Delaney, and Barchin. A brilliant performance from those guys to move up through the field the way they have. Safety car lights off. Race about to reignite. So much pressure on the shoulders of that young bloke, Rehan Leonage, but I reckon it's his old boy that'll be feeling it more than him, because this guy just, for whatever reason, puts all of the pressure to the back of the mind here and focuses on the task at hand. He doesn't care who's behind him. He's just worried about what's in front of him, and that's clean real estate. 5 to go in Japan. We're back underway.
Brilliant
and to
restart.
The first corner we go. Brilliant restart from Rehan Leonage. Awesome restart from Dylan Rudd. Great restart from Brian Borg. Now, if you're Dylan Rudd, who are you more worried about? Trying to get past Rehan Leonage or trying to fend off Brian Borg? Oh, the pressure on these blokes right now, the decisions they have to make in the heat of the battle, and knowing that every move, there's a pro and a con. There's a positive and negative, a consequence, or a potential gain. There's so much going on right now in Japan. And look at Borg closing right up onto Dodd. Oh, onto Rudd, I should say. Dodd's in behind him, under pressure from Costello. Leonage is the leader. Look at the top 5. All at the top of their game. And Dylan Pereira wants to latch onto the back of this as well. A little bit of a touch from Brian Borg onto Dylan Rudd there as they come out of the hairpin and make their way around towards the spoon curve. What drama here in Japan. 5 to go. 24 of 28 wherever you're tuning in on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting around Australia. We'll get this one in on time, certainly. Don't worry about that. Round they go. Up the hill.
Here's where they line up, Rehan.
Absolutely. Slipstream's so important right now. A little bit of a look from Rudd, but not able to do anything about it. Now watch the chicane as well, because that's a pressure cooker moment. And a good run out of here sets you up for the main straight.
Have a look at Rayner.
Costello, brilliant! Costello sends it down the inside of Aaron Dodd, and Aaron Dodd's now flickering. He's now under pressure. And he's going to lose out to Cameron Jones as well. Dodd has dropped 2 positions, all at the expense of a brilliantly executed overtaking manoeuvre from
have a look at this.
The great man, Rayner Costello, and down on the inside of time 1. And have a look at Raymond Leonage trying to fend him off. He's not able to do that. New leader in Japan, it's Dylan Rudd back in front. So in all of that, the drama just lifts to a new level. Dylan Rudd brilliantly executes the overtaking manoeuvre whilst we were focusing on Rayner Costello. With the send of the night, he licked a step, didn't he? He put it down the inside. He said, out of my way, to Aaron Dodd, and muscled him out. Unfortunately, it's compromised Cameron Jones and Aaron Dodd there. Aaron Dodd more so. Jones is all of a sudden in the top 5 and trying to latch back onto the lead pack. And Dylan Rudd has got 3 car lengths at the front of the field between himself and the rest of the pack. And that is so critical at this point. 25 of 28, how good is this? They're delivering again in Japan. The twin ring Motegi race that we had at the end of season 2, also good. But this one with the late race safety car has really ignited the flame, hasn't it? Rehan Leonage will be desperately trying to hold on to that podium position at the moment, but he's going to be under tremendous pressure from Brian Borg and also Rayner Costello. And how quickly they want to move here on Rehan if they can, because they don't want to let Dylan Rudd get away. Yet again, we've seen Brian Borg not be able to convert pole position, but never say never. If he can get clear Rehan Leonage in the next short while, he's still going to be a chance to go with Dylan Rudd. Onto the main straight, 3 laps to go. 6 minutes of racing ahead of us here. What a night we're having on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting, and immediately look at the weaving and the swerving going on from Dylan Rudd, trying to break the slipstream effect, and effectively so. To turn 1 they go. Costello all over the back of Brian Borg at the moment, trying to find a way through. Holden, Ford and Ford. The top 4. Jones is 5th, under pressure from Dodd, who wants that top 5 position back. Oh, Borg with a little bit of a nose peek down the inside, then thought better of it. He's already had a moment involving Dylan Pereira, another member of that team tonight. He doesn't want to get caught up with Rehan as well. He's had to fight back so hard tonight. The reverse strategy working for Brian Borg, helped by a couple of safety cars. Borg's good to go to the end. He was out of sequence from lap 8 onwards. He's now 3rd. He was 6th on lap 1. He had an absolute shocker of a start. But redemption is sweet for him if he can get back to at least 2nd, but I think he'll take 3rd given the context of the race we've seen play out before us tonight. What about Rayner Costello as well? This is awesome from him. He's going with them and just doing it, well, relatively quietly and flying under the radar until he sent it down the inside of Aaron Dodd. Round they come again. Dylan Rudd, the leader. He's not getting away. That's important to note. He's just got enough breathing space between himself and Rehan Leonage. It was half a second by the line last time by. It won't be a second this time by. Here comes Brian Borg. Not yet. Had a peek. Had a look. Then thought better of it. Dylan Rudd is not getting away, and that is important to note for so many reasons, because that was the tail of the tape in season 2. Once Dylan Rudd got to the front, in the absence of Rainer Costello, he cashed the check and said, "See you later." Now he's got all these guys at the same caliber, or the same standard. He's only put 0.2 of a second on Rehan that time by. Only extended the margin by 0.2, but an inch is as good as a mile at this point of the race. 2 laps to go. Now, look at this further back in the pack. One of the Callum Murray Racing stable entries. It's Angus getting muscled out there by Stephen Bull. Angus is trying to get into 11th. Down the inside, no. Then Bull muscles him out. And he's going to lose out in all of that. He's going to lose the spot there to Jamie Dyke. And Tom Heyman wants a piece of it as well and says, "Thank you very much." And all of a sudden, Michael Angus drops to 14th place. So it is happening everywhere at the moment. Have a look at this. How good's the Tuesday night Goodyear Auto Caravana Super Series delivering the goods for you on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. Car 196, Cameron Jones. Cameron Jones has got a drive-through penalty. This late in the race, that crucifies your night. That absolutely kills it. And that is so unfortunate for him. Car contact late in the piece, and Cameron Jones will have a drive-through penalty. I think I read right there, JP. That's unfortunate for the 196.
Yeah, really bad luck for 196, and especially in the dying laps of the race. He's just going to get swallowed up by the rest of the field.
27 to 28 on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting. And that, well, actually, Cameron Jones's loss is Aaron Dodd's gain. Dodd will get into to 5th position now. So all that muck around that was brought about by Rainer Costello making the move on him is about to be undone, because Cameron Jones will have to report to pit lane. Well, he's not going to report to pit lane by the look of that. He's going to continue on, but he'll get a post-race penalty there. So it'll be Aaron Dodd still going for 5th position at the moment, I would think. Borg had a look, couldn't get there. Rudd leads by 0.8 of a second, and unless he puts a foot wrong on this last lap, he's going to grab his first win of the season. Rehan Leonage, as we said last week, unfortunately, once you reach the top of the summit, the only way is down, and that's so unfortunate for him. 28 of 28.
Yeah, 100%. Look, he made a little bit of a mistake there going into coming out of turn 1, actually, and that's all the invitation that Dylan Rudd needed, and he just went for it.
Lap 28 of 28. I was going to say, with Leonage, though, don't take anything away from this performance, because despite the fact that he'll miss out on the W tonight, he's got 2 podium finishes under his belt to start the season, and he's covered off Brian Borg, so he'll still be looking good in a championship sense. There is no doubt about that. In fact, when you think about it, oh, geez. Dylan Rudd will win the race, grab 2 points, so he'll close the gap, and Borg will only be 1 point away. So I think Borg and Rudd are going to be tied on points, and Leonage is still going to lead this thing by the narrowest of margins after what we've seen tonight. Extraordinary stuff in Japan. On the run up the hill for the last time. Costello's not going to be able to get onto the podium. He's going to be a distant, well, not a distant 4th, but an unlucky 4th in this case. That Dylan Rudd is bringing the field into the last sequence of corners for the last time. Does Borg have a look on Leonage? Yes, he does. Borg to the outside, now to the inside. No, not going to be able to get it done. Costello's in there as well. John sliding through, and Dodd as well. Onto the main straight, checkered flag in the air. Dylan Rudd back in victory lane in the Super Series. Oh, classic cracker of a night in Japan. And Dylan Rudd gets his first win of the series. From Rehan Leonage, Brian Borg, Rainer Costello had no choice but to follow them home in the end. Rudd cleared out on that last lap, 1.5, the winning margin. And Cameron Jones rounded out the top 5, but we know that they've given him a penalty, so there'll be something coming of that. Aaron Dodd, we stress that that's all provisional. Aaron Dodd crossed the line in 6th. Ben Morris, McNamara got back to 8th, passing Jamie Dyke and Robert Crisdale. Tommy Heyman got to 11th, just ahead of Michael Angus, Stephen Bull and David Kirby. Kirby from 32nd on the grid finishes 14th. That's an awesome performance for the bloke that's now decked out in Townsville. And 15th went to Simon Vella from 30th on the grid, so equally as impressive from him. And Jared Bailey, I don't know what happened to Bailey in the end, but 8th relegated back to 16th. He started 8th, he finished 16th. He was looking good up until the closing point of this race. Brian Good, Simon Chadwick, Dean Ruddin and Dean Powell made up the top 20. We'll look at the rest of it for you very shortly, but I tell you what, get your hands out and smash them together for that top 5 right there, folks, because that was superb to watch. That had us on the edge of our seat right until the very end. So Dylan Rudd in 1 hour, 4 minutes and 47.136. Rehan Leonage, another podium finish for him. So let's try and crunch the numbers here. 150 for Rudd. Borg was 149 coming into the round. He was 3rd tonight, so that's 146. He'll get 147 to go with that because he gets the podium, the pole position bonus point. Depending upon clean race bonuses as well, I don't know how that's going to affect things. No one had a clean race last week at the top end of town. It'll be interesting to see how it all balances out on points, but at the moment, unless clean race bonuses affect it, I've got Leonage in front by 2 points, and that's it. Oh, wow. So Cameron Jones, in all of that, has been relegated to 25th position for not serving his drive-through. That's just so costly for him. In the meantime, let's celebrate with Dylan Rudd. Let's light it up and crank up the volume, folks, and enjoy this show. Well done to Dylan Rudd. Let's have a look at the unofficial race results here for you on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting, and then we'll have a chat to the top 3. How good was that? Dylan Rudd, Rehan Leonage, Brian Borg. Same podium as last week, just a different order. Rana Costello 4th, Aaron Dodd, Ben Morris, Sean McNamara and Jamie Dyke. That's actually not bad for Jamie Dyke, considering he was through the wars tonight. 2 pit stops and a drive-through. Robert Crisdale, Tommy Heyman got into the top 10 in the end as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it was 5 and 5, Holden and Ford. So that's not too bad either. It's the same 11 to 20. Michael Angus, David Kirby, Simon Vella, Jared Bailey, and Brian Good. Simon Chadwick, Dean Reddit, Dean Power, Peter Crossingham, and David Coleman. Further back through the field we go. Outside the top 20, Scott Barchin, Dean Alessi, David Nash, Sam Noble, Cameron Jones, Chris Barnes, Jacob Brewer, Craig Schultz, Stephen Bull, and Brenton Nitschke. Now, Bull's been relegated as well, so I'm not sure he picked up a penalty somewhere along the way here too. We'll have to chase that up. And then it could be an iRacing penalty. We'll seek some clarification on all of this as we edge closer to the end of the broadcast, folks. Delaney Pereira made up the finishing order, so Pereira's had a shocker in the end too. And for the second week in a row, his campaign's off to a shocking start. Bruce Tannock was the first to lap down. Pennefather, Hobbs, and Scholes will all be classified because they made it past 75%, but Davis, Sibra, and Bradbury will not. And, of course, Lee Davis got more laps than he did last week in the safety car tonight as well. We'll bring in the top 3. We'll have a chat to them here, of course, being mindful of the fact that it is 9:46 Australian Eastern Daylight Time. We'll take you through till beyond 10:15, maybe 10:30, folks, here with a good post-race discussion with Brian Borg, with Dylan Rudd, and with Rehan Leonage. Dylan, I'll come to you in a moment. Well done on the win. No doubt about that. 2 different winners to start the season. Brian Borg, you're establishing yourself as the qualifying master, but what happened at the start, please?
It's on low fuel at the start, so and being practicing at another track with a higher diff as well doesn't help.
So what was the other track you were practicing at?
Daytona.
Ah, of course, yes, the road course, no doubt.
Yeah.
Mate, obviously a nice fight back from you despite the poor start, but well done on qualifying. I'm going to come back to you in a moment. Dylan Rudd, let's go to you. That must be sweet after the difficulty of last week, the fact that you didn't feel comfortable the circuit of Barcelona, Catalonia. You've got on top of things tonight. Strategy, safety cars, and a few other things worked into your favour there, and you come home with a 1.5 second win. Cracking race.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It was a interesting race. Rehan, his short fueling strategies definitely put me on my toes before the safety car. So yeah, didn't have as much practice as I'd like for this track, but still, pace was still good enough to win the race. So yeah.
Now, just talk us through the strategy there as well, because to us it looked like Rehan played the same card that he did last week. But if that's the case, then maybe the old rubber caught up with him when the field bunched back up for the second safety car tonight. Did safety cars impact your strategy at all?
No, not really. At the safety car at the end of the race definitely made it easier. I didn't have to save any fuel. Without the safety car, I would have had to save a little bit of fuel in that last stint. But other than that, the safety car didn't really impact my race.
Fair enough too, mate. Were you surprised at the closeness of it tonight?
Yeah. It's even though it's a difficult track, it's very flowing, so times were most likely be close in qualifying and in the race. The draft wasn't as thought the draft would have been more effective than it was, but yeah.
Now, I'll come back to you in just a moment, mate. We'll have a chat here as we go on because there's plenty to dissect in all of that. Rehan Leonage, welcome into you. First last week, unfortunately, when you start at the top of the summit, the only way is backwards, unless you can keep up the performances at the top there. But tonight for you, an awesome performance to back up what was a brilliant show last week. You finished second, and if my numbers are correct, until playing race bonuses are added, if applicable, I've still got you as the championship leader, albeit by 2 points. Awesome performance from you tonight to maintain the solid start of the season that we saw last week.
Yeah, this week it was mostly just trying to just try to replicate what we did in first week. Yeah, first week was a hard one to back up with today. But yeah, it was a lot in the strategy and everything. We just tried to hold it up there in the podium at least. And we weren't expecting for our strategy to work as well as we thought, but ended up working quite effectively. We ended up coming out, I think, 2 seconds ahead of Dylan. And then that last safety car just screwed us up a little bit there. Made it easier for Dylan to gain that gap and catch up to us. But yeah, other than that, safety cars didn't really change much. Just let us underfuel a little bit more.
Well, that's true too. Fuel became less of a factor because we were looking at the fuel burn before the start of the race, and we thought, okay, 10 lap stints, that's easy, 10, 10 and 8, or 10, 8 and 10, or 8, 10 and 10. And we noticed that Brian went off on a different tangent to you guys at the front there as well, and it paid off for him in the end. I'm going to get to him in just a moment, but sticking with you, Rehan, did you try the same strategy as the last week to an extent?
Sorry, what was that?
Rehan, did you stick to the same strategy as last week, mate? Did you go to the same undercard that you did last week, short fuel, new tyres first stop, or did you play it differently this week?
Yeah, we did the same or similar strategy. Nothing really different. It was mostly about what everyone else was around us doing. But yeah, it worked right in our favor. Ended up getting us E2, so I'm pretty proud of that.
Well, that's exactly right, mate. No, a superb performance. I mean, and to be fair, had it not been for that second safety car, which, I mean, there was no choice but to throw it, the track was blocked. But had it not been for that, that strategy was paying off up until the field batched up behind you, and it was always going to be hard from there. And we said it in the call to have you run on the older rubber compared to everyone else who we suspected was on the new rubber.
Yeah, that was the only downside to the safety car in the last one, I reckon. Everything else was playing out in our favor. And it was one of the hardest parts of the safety car was trying to get through that roadblock. Had to slow the car down right, like just enough, and barely got through there. But yeah, other than that, that was safety car was the only thing stopping us from pushing and actually getting a better fight with Dylan.
Rehan, how does round win sound to you?
Epic.
Because you were the only one in the top three to pick up a clean race, mate. So 5 bonus points coming your way, round win. Well done.
Thank you.
And that will maintain your championship lead as well. A superb start to the season. Again, I stress, folks, this guy is the youngest in the field. And, I mean, setting a very high standard from the outset in season 3. There's 9 weeks to go, but Rehan Leonash is in some kind of form at the moment. There's no doubt about that, mate. I'm coming back to you very shortly because I want to chat more about the safety car restart and the pressure with that. But let's go to Brian Borg at this point in time. One of the poor souls impacted by the time difference, of course, because I didn't realise this last week, Brian, but apparently you're over on the other side of the Nullarbor. Oh, you're in Victoria. No, my apologies. Someone else said it was. Yeah, no, that's all right. Brian, let's have a chat to you and disregard what I just said there. The fact of the matter is that it was an uphill battle for you from the outset because of that botched start. Then the contact with Dylan Pereira, which was later deemed a racing incident, which must have left you breathing a sigh of relief. But what led to you pitting early there in that opening stint, please?
Oh, first of all, I'll just say I wish I was on the other side of the country so I can go more than 15 Ks from my house. But anyway, yeah, obviously the start wasn't good. Then there was that lap 1 contact, which I felt I got a little bit squeezed at the time. So, and then I made a mistake myself, which put me back to P9th, I think it was. So the only way that I was going to get myself out of that group, I think I got up to P6 before I pitted, was I pitted for new tyres. So I did my new tyre stint in the middle one. And that's the way I undercut and got in front of all of them and obviously got myself back into the podium position.
Yeah, apologies for me. It must. I've got my wires crossed somewhere along the way tonight because we were talking about why the start time wasn't moved for the sake of Western Australia now being, of course, 3 hours behind and all this, that, and the other. And I've got my wires crossed with regards to who was making the complaint about that. But at the end of the day, and it's a problem affecting the entire sim world at the moment as far as Australasia is concerned, when you're working to try and suit New Zealand all the way across to Western Australia, you've got a 5-hour time difference. It's not easy because for the Kiwis, it's approaching midnight at this point in time. So unless we wanted them staying up till beyond 1 a.m., we've gone with New South Wales Victorian time for 8:20 for our broadcast, as most of you know. I'm not a fan of the fact that Queensland sits 112 years behind, but that's another story for another day. Brian, let's have a chat to you because how difficult is it when you're the master of qualifying at the moment, 2 pole positions from 2 starts, and then obviously what happened tonight? Yes, the initial contact that you ended up 4 positions down the order in the early stages there. Just talk me through the red mist moment that might have descended on the helmet and the cockpit as soon as that happened, because then obviously we've noticed that things very quickly got out of hand. You had that incident with Dylan Pereira, and then you've made another incident on your own acknowledgement, on your own admission. How difficult was it then to just get back focused on the task at hand when, instead of having a clear piece of real estate in front of you and some clear air, you were boxed in an ultra competitive field?
Look, I've been doing this for a long time, so I've done plenty of botch starts and stuff like that. The lap 1 incident is a little bit of, and this is the way I'm seeing it, so I don't want to make any arguments or anything like that. But you've got 2 team cars in front of me, so they're going to play the team game in doing what they did. Now it's also lap 1 as well. I felt like I had my car enough there to claim that area of the track, and obviously I've looked at the replay myself, and yeah, like it's just it is a racing incident. Like there's nothing more from both sides that can happen from there. Wasn't intentional. I didn't lock up or anything like that. And then from after that, it was just obviously I didn't do like same with Dylan as well. I've done stuff all practice since Friday night. I'm not saying that as an excuse or anything like that. But yeah, it's just the first bit was just getting back into the rhythm, and and I was saying to myself in the race, you can have a fast car in qualifying, but you got to get everything right. You got to get your starts right. You got to get where you position your car and stuff like that. And sometimes it doesn't work out, and that's where you got to, as a driver, work yourself and say, how am I going to get my car back up there?
Well, that's a fair point too, because when we were waiting for race control to make their decision with regards to that incident with you and Dylan Pereira, we speculated whether it could have been a red mist moment that you were trying to make up for lost ground and do it at a rapid rate of knots, or whether it was just literally a racing incident. And then we saw you come to pit lane, and we hadn't had word from race control as to whether it was a penalty or not. So then we eventually, it took them half the race almost to deliberate on whether it was going to be a penalty or a racing incident, and that they eventually got to the right conclusion, in our opinion, and I'm sure in yours as well. But I couldn't help but speculate whether it was that you were a little bit annoyed with yourself, for lack of better words, at this time of the night, to have that incident with Pereira so early on. But as we said, in the end, when all the replays were said and done, it was clear that the real estate wasn't there for you to go any further across than where you already were. So, no, nicely played there. As for the fight back through the field, the second mistake that you made, we didn't see, but we saw you drop down the order. That led to an early pit stop, and from there, the strategy worked into your favour, mate, because you fought back through the field very nicely and got back into the top 3 and had a crack at the end there, and did a nice job.
My tyres were cooked. After that second stint, I used my tyres up so much with the new tyres in that second stint, and when the third stint happened, I'm thinking to myself, now this is going to be a hard stint. And then the safety car came out, and I'm like, yeah, you beauty, like tyres cooled down, everything cooled down, and yeah, that last bit, I felt like I had new tyres again, so the safety car helped me at the end, definitely.
Indeed it did. And just with regards to tyres, I can't help but ask, Dylan Rudd, did you take tyres second stop or first stop, mate?
Second stop.
So that explains the narrative of what played out before you there, ladies and gentlemen, because we knew about Rehan Leonage. We hit the nail on the head there with that as to what strategy he was running. He went exactly the same line as he went last week, pretty well, to a T. we didn't know that Brian took new tyres first up as well. But that explains why Dylan Rudd was able to have a proper full-on attack on the guys, because he was on the fresher rubber, and fresh rubber is king in this game in a field where hundreds, thousandths of a second separate them in qualifying. And qualifying was incredibly tight tonight. Just on that, Brian, you obviously were able to bank a lap early and set the benchmark, and it's clear to us that if you can get clear air, it's so important to make the most of it. What do you make of the traffic tonight?
In qualifying?
Yes.
Well, my first lap, I nearly wiped out a competitor who came out of the pits, and yeah, that was a little bit hairy, and I was like, you little bugger. But anyway, had to go back to the pits and put a fresh set of boots on, and yeah, I was actually surprised that I got pole position. I actually had no practice today at all or anything like that, and coming from a track like Daytona to coming back to this track, and I noticed that there was other guys who had a practice server up before, and I'm thinking, yeah, I was actually surprised. I thought Rian or Dylan or someone would have got pole, but I'll take it. I don't get poles very often, but in this series I've got 2 on the trot, so that's good for me.
Indeed it is. Now, with regards to the rest of you, let's have a chat to Rehan Leonash here. How much pressure were you feeling when that safety car was called, the second one, and you were going to be leading the hot and heavy field back to green for a 5-lap mad dash?
Oh yeah, pressure was on more than I was hoping, especially because eyes were kind of gone by then. But yeah, it was mostly just trying to make no mistakes, and we'd be able to keep at least second place. First place was kind of out of our control. We couldn't really. It would have been a long shot to get the race win, but yeah, pressure was just there whole entire time.
Indeed, it was, and it's a pressure cooker situation. Dylan Rudd, Brian Borg, you can both chime in here. When you get a late race safety car, you bunch the field up. It is as competitive as this field is, and we don't say that lightly. I mean, top 14 separated by less than a second in qualifying. It's paramount that you don't make a mistake when the field is that bunched up, or you pay the price. And we saw that with Cameron Jones. He got a post-race penalty that plummeted him down to 25th position. Hitting every marker was important in that 5 laps, Dylan, and you were the guy that was able to do it.
Yeah, after the second car restart, just tried to get a best restart as I could with Rehan. Then tried, he blocked a little bit in turn 1, did the switch back through turn 1 and made the move. Then I had slightly better tyres than Rehan, so I just pulled a gap in the last couple of laps.
Certainly was, mate. And what we noticed as well, Dylan, is that you didn't necessarily clear out until that last lap. You doubled the buffer that you amassed over the first 2 laps of leading on that, or 3 laps of leading on that last lap. It went from 5 tenths to 7 tenths to 8 tenths, and then all of a sudden it was a second and a half. So you didn't necessarily draw clear of the pack. Any reason why you thought that might be?
No, I'm not too sure. Yeah, obviously didn't have the pace to do a very big gap, but obviously it was just enough to keep Rehan out of pass, keep him just enough of a gap so he couldn't do a pass on me. So yeah.
And of course, one mistake, and it was all cactus. But at the same time, fresh tyres were king for you in that, or fresher tyres, I should say, were king for you in that instance. You were able to hold the pack at bay. Had you all been on worn rubber, it would have been a far more compelling story, I reckon, in terms of that contest. Now, breaking news from race control here. Big no-no at motor racing is passing under yellow, or passing under the safety car. Unfortunately, Brenton Nitschke, David Kirby, Jamie Dyke, Jared Bailey, Michael Angus, Robert Crisdale and Tommy Heyman have all been pinned 20 championship points for passing under the safety car. So the team in race control, they've had their work cut out for them tonight. There's been a few things they've had to adjudicate on. They've come down, they've clamped down hard on that one. That's yeah, wow. That's a big bit of news breaking right there for you. That'll obviously have an impact on the championship standings and all that, which we'll get to very shortly. We'll keep our eyes peeled for any more news as it comes in from race control. Now, just repeating earlier news, Cameron Jones docked from 9th down to 25th position, and also we mentioned as well Stephen Bull, who was running up in the top 15, ended up 29th classified in all of that for some sort of discrepancy at the end of the race there. Now also, oh geez, Aaron Dodd knows what this is all about. Dylan Rudd can relate to it. I'm sure we all can. Cars number 3 and 808. So let's just clear this up for Jamie Dyke is one of those. Sorry, no. Robert Crisdale is one of those. Robert Crisdale is the 808. And number 3, I'm just having a look here. I'm just struggling to scroll through my leaderboard at the moment. But also, so there are 2 cars, Robert Crisdale being one of those in the 808, and number 3 being the other one that I've... No, I was going to say, I don't have number 3 on my list either, so I don't know who's coming up with the numbers that's being sent to me at the moment. Car 8, that's better. Car 8, Blake Delaney. So Robert Crisdale and Blake Delaney. Got to love live television, don't you? Those 2 have been docked 3 places because they were unable to complete their cool-down lap. And that, in a night where you had 2 safety cars and the fuel strategy game was pretty easy to figure out, that's unforgivable. You'd say for those guys. I mean, Robert Crisdale's an experienced campaigner, so I'm not sure what's happened there. So yeah, it's a difficult one, but they'll pay the price and they'll move forward and they'll look to bounce back next week. Unfortunately for Robert Crisdale, that knocks him from 9th back to 12th, and the number 8 was Blake Delaney from 31st back to 34th. So Dylan Pereira jumps up to 31st. And Bruce Tunnock and Justin Pennyfeather jump up. Actually, well, Pennyfeather, I don't think he can be bumped up ahead of someone that finished on the lead lap. So I think Delaney will end up dropping 2 positions because he can't drop any further back than that by virtue of the fact that, well, actually, I don't know how race control are going to do that because Delaney's 31st. If he drops to 32nd, that's okay. But then if he drops to 33rd, he's going ahead of, he's going behind a car that's a lap down. But no, that's all right. They'll take 6 points away from him. They won't be able to drop him any more than 1 position based on that. So it'll be 6 championship points rather than 3 places in that instance. Thanks to JP for clarification in my ear as we go here. It's interesting trying to figure all this out on the run, isn't it? And obviously, well, Tommy Hayman's already been docked 20 championship points, but he'll move up to 9th, Michael Angus to 10th, and David Kirby to 11th. They're all going to lose 20 championship points, but they've just gained 2 each. Go figure. It's been an interesting night at the office. Confusing much? Are you keeping up with it? I'm not. Now, let's continue on here before I go into territory where I just won't be able to redeem it, and talk to Brian Borg about all of that. Because at the end of the day, mate, going on the reverse strategy really paid off for you. Did you get much benefit in the second stint in terms of clear air and trying to make the most of those new tyres, or was the hard work helped by the fact that we had 2 safety cars tonight?
I definitely got a benefit with those new tyres with everybody else. I was able to come out just in front of Dylan and then obviously hold second place up until the last pit stop. Dylan pitted a lap earlier. I reckon if I would have pitted the same lap as Dylan, I would have been in front of Dylan with the last pit stop. So yeah, it's just, yeah, I definitely got an advantage with those new tyres. If I didn't do that, I would have been P4, not P2 with the second stint.
Yeah, yep, no, and that's a well thought out response there from you, well put together. Because at the end of the day, um, yeah, if you zig when others zag, you pay the price, and if you zag when others zig, you can sometimes pay the price as well. It's a gambling game, isn't it? You've always got to think outside the box, maybe take a punt and see if it pays off. And tonight for you, it certainly did.
Yeah, well, when nights like tonight, you just got to get as much points as you can. If you can't win the race, you just got to get as high up as you can. And third was the best I could do. And congrats to Dylan and Rian for their drive and stuff. But I got to stop making bad starts. I had a good start last week, but this one I bottled up. So anyway.
Got a message from Rainer Costello, who was away at the Queensland Karting Championships over the weekend. I think I'm right in saying he sent me a message after qualifying, which I didn't get to before we got into the race. He said, pretty happy with that. 15 laps of practice, brought the track on Monday night because he'd been away all weekend. So, I mean, for him to put in the performance he did tonight, sixth and then fourth, sixth on the grid, fourth in the race, no doubt he'll be happy with the points haul he takes through to the next round of the championship, and we'll start going to circuits that are probably more familiar to a lot of these guys as we get closer to the end of the championship. Of course, Rainer Costello, the defending 1,000 champion, looking to go back-to-back when we get there on December 12th. So let's explore the options here. Rehan Leonage, how much time did you get to put into practice and preparation for tonight, mate?
Like about 15 to 16 hours, so not as much as last week.
What are school holidays for, eh?
Not school holidays anymore, though.
No. But you had all the long weekend, and last week was the second week of school holidays, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't get as much time as last week because I didn't start as early, but still got 15 hours in, so a bit.
And how was the first day back at homeschooling, by the way?
What was that, sorry?
I said, how was the first day back as far as homeschooling's concerned? Because proper school hasn't gone back yet, has it?
Yeah, it was good. Nothing unusual.
Good stuff. Excellent. A bit of a later start for Rehan tomorrow because he's having a later bedtime tonight, but that's another story. Dylan Rudd, how much practice and preparation did you get for Suzuka, mates? Obviously, whatever it was, it paid off significantly for you with the W tonight. But is this a track that you've raced on before at supercar level? Has Dylan got us? We've lost Dylan. We'll go to Brian Morgan. No, there you are now, mate. We've got you now. Go for it.
Yeah, it helped unmute myself. But
yes.
This is my first time racing Suzuka on iRacing. Didn't really get much practice because I was actually away at the Queensland State Championships for karting as well. Yep. So last night was the first time I'd been back on the sim since round one. And yeah, so did about 3.5 hours of practice and that was it.
No, very nicely done. And just quickly, how did you fare up in Emerald?
Not too bad. Ended up P9 in the final out of 30. So
in what class, mate? Just out of curiosity.
Tag light.
Tag light, one of the good ones. Yeah, very nicely done. Of course, a good contingent of the Ipswich guys who I'm, of course, locally associated with and mention their results on radio all the time. They bagged swagger titles over the course of the weekend. So well done to all involved up there in Emerald. Lovely part of the world. Long journey for some to get there, but well worth the price of admission over the course of the weekend, as is any state title karting event. There's no doubt about that. Now, let's bring Rehan Leonage into this, because next week, mate, we go to the newest circuit on the iRacing platform. We go to the Budapest circuit in Hungary, the Hungaro Ring. What are your thoughts on that? And also noting that it is a super sprint night, so we will have a reverse grid race at some point here, and it's not the easiest circuit to overtake on.
Oh yeah, it's not a bad track, but yeah, as you said, it's not easy to pass on. So the reverse grid's going to be interesting. Just like Suzuka, a couple of places to pass, but quite risky. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Not really a big fan of the track, but it's not bad.
can't remember if it was Brian or Dylan that mentioned that the slipstream didn't play as big a part as they thought it would tonight. What do you make of the slipstream and the overtaking opportunities, Rehan? Because at the end of the day, that top end of town was pretty tightly packed. We saw a couple of mistakes with overtaking opportunities trying to be executed and failing. And then we saw some very impressive overtaking maneuvers, particularly Rana Costello's was the highlight of the night.
Oh yeah, Draft is actually pretty strong on the back straight, but you can't make him move there. It's very dangerous there. Yeah, Draft was not really as strong as I expected it to be, but especially on the main straight and along the corner going into sprint. But yeah, still was like 2 to 3 tenths on the back straight, so not too bad.
Yeah. Brian Board, what do you make of overtaking opportunities on this circuit?
Had to make a couple, so yeah, it's you can overtake, but it just depends on I can't really say we're on live television, but
That's
depends how. Yeah, yeah, you just gotta, like what Rian said, you know, you gotta be in that 0.2 of a gap to get any effect down the back straight or even down the front straight. Everywhere else is just follow the leader.
I was going to say, if the entire country observed daylight saving, which would be a common sense approach, you would be able to say whatever you like because we'd be past that threshold between PG and M in Western Australia. But anyway, that's another story for another day. Let's move on. Your thoughts on the Hungaro ring, Brian, before I go to Dylan?
Yeah, I've done a couple laps around there, and I don't mind it. It's going to be a fun car with the touring car, and I think it will bring out the safety car a couple times. My opinion.
Well, I would say, given we've got a reverse grid race, and we saw the safety car tonight twice in a race that is 1 hour long, and also on a circuit that has a lot of runoff area, and Hungary's polar opposite in terms of runoff area. I think you might be onto something there. Looking forward to seeing if we do see the safety car get any sort of track time next week. And how do you feel about the reverse grid race, mate? Because I know we've got two of them in this championship. They each play an important part in detailing the narrative of the outcome of the season. Is it a risk management, damage control sort of approach from you when you get to a reverse grid race when you're at the pointy end of town, usually 95% of the season?
I feel like that in a reverse grid, you gotta pick your moments and know when to do it. Sometimes you get a good start, and most of the damage is done at by the turn one. So hopefully that's the case.
Dylan, right as we come to you, how much time have you spent clocking laps around the Hungaro ring at this point?
I've done about 3 laps there. Another difficult track like Suzuka. It's going to be doesn't seem to be many overtaking opportunities, so good qualifying is going to help. So yeah, it's going to be another, especially in the reverse grid race, is going to be a bit of a challenge.
It is. And on the subject of the reverse grid race, you did 2 of them here last season. I look at the Hungaro ring. I commentated some GT racing there last night for the GSRC. I reckon turn 1, 2, and 3, great overtaking opportunities. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, not so. It's pretty much follow the leader. 12, 13, 14. If you're ballsy enough to do it, great, go for it. Probably your best chance is that last sector of the lap and the first sector of the lap. The second sector is pretty much follow the leader, isn't it?
Yeah, not sure. I haven't done that many laps there to know.
All right, copy that. But how do you approach a reverse grid race, mate?
Same as always. Make it through the first couple of laps, then start picking everyone off from there.
starting to get to the end of our broadcast window here, boys. So at this point in time, I'll remove the anxiety from the equation and show you the championship points as they stand at this point in time, because I know everyone's anxious to know how things are stacking up at the end of 2 of 11 rounds in this championship from the Suzuka circuit in Japan. And Rehan Leonage, by virtue of the fact I said that he'd have the lead by 2 points, but because he got the 5-point clean bonus, there it is, 7 points to the advantage. Brian Borg, Dylan Rudd, neck and neck. And that's purely because Brian's been able to pick up 2 points through claiming the 1-point bonus for pole position on both occasions thus far. Rainer Costello, a good run tonight, sitting fourth, not out of contention, nor is Sean McNamara. A good performance from him. Could have been a little bit better. He got screwed over in the end by that safety car, it's fair to say. At the end, he went from first back to 10th. He got boxed in by traffic that he wasn't allowed to overtake under the safety car, and that compromised his run there. We were thinking that he would be a beneficiary of the safety car being called while he was in the lead and then come in and pit, but it wasn't to be. Then, of course, Ben Morris on 264, 258 for Simon Chadwick, Simon Vella on 256, and Tom Heyman 254, although I'm yet to be told whether that's after or before his 20 points have been ripped away from him. And Jamie Dyke on 250 as well, rounding out the top 10 there as well. JP? All points are current, so you can read that as gospel, ladies and gentlemen. Michael Angus, 246. Robert Crisdale, 242. Aaron Dodd, 236. He had a good run tonight. David Kirby, 234, and David Coleman, 230, making up the top 15 at the moment. I'll let you read through that as you like, ladies and gentlemen. And we are looking forward, of course, to our third Grand Prix venue of the season next week for our first of 2 super sprints. And, of course, the second one coming up from an IndyCar favourite, Road America. So polar opposite courses. Hungaroring, a tight technical circuit where you're going to be constantly hard at work. And then you've got the wide open spaces of Road America, which is a real horsepower track. Brian Borg, I'm sure you've got some sponsors that you'd like to thank, mate.
Yeah, as always, just want a big shout out to John at Racecraft Simulations, Herod Performance, Advanced Performance Machining, PPG Australia and New Zealand, Authentic Collectibles, Azuzu Australia, Kookaburra Cafe, and Super Sports Superstore, and TMB Cleaning for their sponsorship to our cars. So thank you, and you guys as well.
Well done to you, mate. So stay there. If I've got time before the end of the broadcast here, I will come back to you. Rehan Leonage, the stage is yours, mate. A first and a second to start the season and the championship leader. Well done.
Thanks. I would like to thank Melbourne Hydrographic Stepper, Track Racer, Simcore, Aramex Heatherton, LAL Photography. I'd like to thank JP for all the broadcasting. I'd like to thank you guys up here in the commentating booth. And I'd like to thank my grandparents from New Zealand and my grandparents in Melbourne for watching and supporting me throughout throughout my entire career.
You can always rely on a good audience when a Leonage is in the house, no doubt about that. Hey, well done to you, mate. And Dylan Rudd, I'm sure you got a few people you'd like to thank right now.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank all the guys at 95 SimSport, all our sponsors, SRT Australia, Racecraft Simulations, Bauer Media, Racing Ears Custom Ear Protection, 83D Printing Services, Cutting Edge Tracks, and RSW Graphics. And good job to Brian Borg and Rehan on the podium, and unlucky to Sean McNamara could have had a podium.
Yep.
Unfortunate circumstances on the safety car.
Indeed it was. Mate, well done to you on the W. Same podium 2 weeks in a row, different order. 2 different winners to start the season, but Brian Borg is the master of qualifying at this point in time. It's been another great broadcast, another great night at the office, another great race in the Goodyear Autocaravaana Super Series here. And on that note, we should acknowledge the team that put it together for us here on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting and the sponsors that make it possible for us to do what we do. Of course, Goodyear Autocaravaana, DSL Welding, Dragon RC, Blue Stampede Labour Hire, and also SDK Gaming rather, and Track Cams for Gourmet, and of course SimShed Broadcasting and Real Sim Racing Australia for being the promoters of the series and doing a superb bang up job of it. And looking forward to the next 9 weeks. Dylan Rudd, let me pick your brain just quickly here before we wrap up. Any talk about who you'll be teaming up with on Sunday, December 12th?
Yes.
Anything you'd like to share with us as we start to tease people about what they can look forward to on that day?
I think it's pretty obvious. I'll be teaming up with Aaron Dodge, so yeah, should be a good combo.
Certainly should be indeed. So Rudd and Dodd. We were saying earlier in the night, but we sometimes get you two confused. And I said it's very easy to understand why. Both their surnames end with double D, and you've got 5 letters in your first name and 4 letters in your second. It sometimes happens, but it'll be good to see you two teaming up. And of course, to be fair, Aaron's had a good start to this season, and he'll be hoping to carry on with it because really, it was a couple of little things that really let him down in season 2.
Yeah, so I think he should have a good season this season. Try and minimize his penalties and mistakes that he's been making. He's got good pace, so yeah, hopefully by the time we get to Bathurst, it should be a good race.
Just have a look at this for consistency as well, ladies and gentlemen. The top 5 on the grid tonight. So the only person in the top 5 on the grid that didn't finish in the top 5 was Dylan Pereira. First across the line started second. Rehan went from 5th to 2nd. Brian went from 1st back to 3rd. Rayner from 6th up to 4th, and Aaron from 3rd back to 5th. Not a bad effort from the top 6 tonight when you look at it that way. Not sure what happened to Dylan Pereira late in the piece as well, but I'm sure we'll find out in due course. Well done, boys. Congratulations. Another round done, another post-race show done, and you 3 are starting to become quite regular guests in that part of the broadcast, and it's no guess as to why, because you are the benchmark and everybody's playing catch up at this point in time. Let's have a look ahead on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting, because we've got a big week of racing coming your way, as we always do. Final 3 rounds of the Weekend Warriors Cup car racing. I want to go there first. Saturday night, we were in Bristol, Tennessee last week. We're going to Nashville this week. So Nashville, front and center, the super speedway there. It's 1 1/3 miles. But it's a flat-out run round there, and we'll bring you the 3rd last round of the Weekend Warriors series for 2021. They've already released their calendar for 2022. We might even get time to run through that on Saturday night. That is from 7:20 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Make a note of that again. I cannot stress it enough. Don't blame me if you're in Queensland, the Northern Territory, or Western Australia, because it's all an hour earlier than what it used to be. As far as Wednesday night motorsport is concerned, disregard the Thursday there. It's Wednesday night. It's the RSRA Super 2E series, and that is coming to you on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting from 8:20 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Also from Japan, but well, we go Super Sprint Racing next week. They do it tomorrow night. Reverse grid racing around this track will be awesome to watch. Make sure you're a part of that. Get amongst it tomorrow night, 8:20 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, and then next Tuesday night, we're back with you from the Hungaro Ring in Hungary. 8:20 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. First sprint race of the season for these guys. Super Sprint Reverse Grid. And there are 2 of them on the schedule. There it is, Hungaro Ring, and of course also Road America. We're not too far away from the start of the Triple Crown. That'll be around the streets of Long Beach, over 64 laps in a couple of weeks as well. And then the first Enduro of the season will be in week 6. As I say, we do somewhere in the vicinity of 1,600 to 1,700 kilometres just before we get to Bathurst. So this is a massive campaign for these guys. And by the time we get to Mount Panorama, that will be the 40th event for some of these guys, 40th race meeting of the season. 17 in term 1, as we like to call it over at the GSRC. 17 in season 1, 12 in season 2, 11 in season 3. The big one, we've got a 3-night broadcast for that, with qualifying on the 7th of December, from in the usual Tuesday night motorsport time slot, then the top 10 shootout on the Saturday afternoon, then the 1,000 on the Sunday morning. We cannot wait for that. But we've got some ripper tracks coming your way before then. The Hungaro Ring next week, then on to Long Beach. Circuit of the Americas, that'll be good fun too. That's on the West Circuit there. Then on to the Autodromo, Jose Carlos Pace. That's, of course, is Interlagos. We've already had an Enduro this year there in the Super Series. We're going again. That's how much we enjoyed the first one. And then on to Mid-Ohio, Road America. Summit Point will be interesting for so many reasons. It'll be, one of those follow the leader type nights. And Donington National for the last of the sprint rounds as well before we get on to Mount Panorama. JP, final thoughts from you and a driver of the night nomination, please.
This one's going to be a tough one. Great race, some great racing tonight. A little bit of a couple of little over ambitious moves here and there. Driver of the night, I certainly have to go with. I think I'm going to stick with Dylan Rudd. He kept his cool. He made that brilliant move around young Rihan and was able to just motor away and basically control the race once he was in the lead.
Indeed. And it was a brilliant job tonight from all the top five. In fact, even Aaron Dodd there, despite being pushed out of the way cleanly by Ray Costello, he fought back to get that top five after Cameron Jones copped that penalty. Awesome night at the office. Hope you've enjoyed it at home. Really enjoyed your company. Really enjoyed the racing. Hope you did as well. If the first 2 weeks is anything to go by, we are in for a ripper season. And obviously, the interest will be very much focused on how these guys adapt from what is essentially sprint mode for the first 10 weeks into enduro trim when we get to the mountain. We're edging ever so closer to the Goodyear Auto Care Runner Bathurst 1000 of 2021. That'll be Sunday, December 12th. Yes, the 12th of the 12th, 21. All the ones and twos. And the ones and twos of this championship, well, we've got an outright leader and we've got a tie for second at the moment with Brian Borg and Dylan Rudd. Rihan Leonard's the man to beat, but we've got a long, long way to go. We've got a few guys that'll be kicking themselves for passing under the safety car because they've been docked 20 points. We've got a few guys that have a point to prove after a disappointing start of the season. I'm looking at Jamie Dyke, who bounced back to 8th tonight, but not without another drive-through penalty. He's second of the season. Of course, Dylan Pereira has had two absolute shockers after having such a brilliant season in Season 2. Hope you've enjoyed the Goodyear Auto Care Runner Super Series, the Suzuka 160 on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting across Facebook and YouTube. Look forward to doing it again next week. Make sure you join Matt Davis and Dylan Pereira tomorrow. Dean Reddit, I should say. Why did I have Dylan Pereira on my mind? Dean Reddit, of course. Matt Davis, Dean Reddit tomorrow night for the Super 2E series from the same time, 8:20 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. And then, of course, Saturday night, I look forward to your company with JP, with Mark Johansson for the final 3 rounds, the third last round of the Weekend Warriors Cup Car Racing Series. From all the crew here, the Oriental night of the season is done. Off to Hungary next week, so back to Europe. It's a little bit of continent hopping to start the season, but then we settle into a rhythm with a good run through North and South America before we go to Mount Panorama. On behalf of all the crew here, I'm Zach Cabin. Thanks for your company. We'll see you next week for the Goodyear Auto Care Runner Super Series. Until then, bye for now.